In the backdrop of everything going on with tariffs, there's also been competing tax bills that have been making their way through the House and Senate via the reconciliation process because they do not have the votes to pass them via a regular bill. The conjecture out there has been throughout all of this, where are the cuts going to come and how are you going to pay for them? Because there are limitations in terms of what they're able to do. And frankly, the limitations that I'm most concerned about today is how is the bond market going to treat some sort of giant tax cut with big deficit spending, if that's what we get. I'm not convinced that that's where we're going to end up, but if we get that, will you see yields rise because international investors are just a bit fed up with the U.S. Story, both in terms of trade as well as deficits? The possible outcome of what had been discussed is, hey, in order to fund some of these big tax cuts on Social Security, on overtime, on tips, would be bumping up the tax rates for top income earners, for millionaires and other groups. Steve Bannon had pushed for this quite a bit behind closed doors. President Trump, over the last few days, seemed to have tossed some cold water on that one. Saying that a potential millionaire's tax was, quote, very disruptive. That was after former House Speaker Newt Gingrich circulated a message from Trump saying the president loves the idea of a small tax increase on the rich, but was counseling Republicans against it for a number of political reasons. This is all reporting from the Wall Street Journal. So this makes two things more likely to me. One, I don't think that top income bracket is moving much at all, which is currently sitting at 37%. So if you're earning, I think it's as a married couple, over $750,000, you're hitting that 37% rate. Probably not going anywhere during this bill. It also makes it more difficult to pass some of those priorities, though, that he campaigned on, such as the tax on tips, Social Security, and other items that would be more Main Street focused. So I'll be very interested to see where this all comes out. They are not finding much success in finding the cuts that they want to do to offset all of this. And so in the absence of tariff revenue offsetting it, in the absence of massive government cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and defense, which are not coming either, I don't know how much of a tax bill you're really going to be able to put together here without that tax income on millionaires.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised that this is something that the Republican Party was potentially mentioning as an option. Yeah, it just seems so counterintuitive.
But frankly, look, I mean, the political norms have changed.
Of course.
They have changed significantly. They've been changing over the last 8 years. But the Republican Party is not the party of free trade anymore. They are not necessarily the always pro-business party as they were prior to 2016. And that has been, there's been a general push away from free markets from both Democrats and Republicans over the last few years. But this did surprise me quite a bit. It's pretty unrecognizable from the Republican mantra over the last 50 years, but was kind of in line with stuff like tariffs and other policies that have been coming out of the Republican Party this time around.
Not that I agree with the idea of increasing the highest bracket, but Trump mentioning that the reason that they shouldn't proceed with it is it would be very disruptive and a lot of millionaires would leave the country. That I sort of scratched my head on, just because the whole idea of renouncing citizenship and moving out of the United States, to me, just because of an increase of 37 to 39.6%, to me feels rather unlikely.
I would agree there. I would be much more concerned about a bump up of the corporate tax rate and companies' abilities to relocate their headquarters. Go show me which country that you actually would feel comfortable living in that's going to tax you on your income if you're making $3 million a year at less than 40%.
Yeah.
It's a pretty limited list.
Right.
It's a fairly limited list, and so I'm with you there. I don't know to what degree it actually drives investment out of the United States.